Hey, we're celebrating the 50th episode of our Invisible Strength podcast. From laugh out loud moments to deep truths, we're revisiting our most powerful takeaways and favorite moments from our autoimmune community. To help celebrate and honor the invisible strength within each of us, we're running a special giveaway for a chance to win an Invisible Strength hat. All you have to do is nominate someone who embodies invisible strength by commenting on this episode or on Instagram at unseen yet unstoppable. And don't forget to tag us to be eligible. To start, Chris, I want to get into why we started this podcast and what we were hoping to accomplish in this journey.
Yeah, no, I really am just amazed that we're 50 episodes in with just 50 different conversations, with guests and even without guests, where we've just had an opportunity to really chronicle and talk about all of the hills and valleys that those of us in the autoimmune community go through. And just, I think at its core, Karen, we're allowing a space to be held for folks like all of us within this community remember at some point or another feeling so alone in this and feeling like we were the only people on the planet going through what we're going through, and to be able to see so many different people, learn so many different stories about the ways in which autoimmune conditions affect all of us. It really has helped close that loneliness. And I think at the core of it, what we've created is a real community and a place where people can remember that they're not in this by themselves, which is an honor to do.
Absolutely. That is one of the things that I have taken away most is the sense of community.
Mhm.
There's all kinds of different support groups out there, but in my experience, I had walked away from some of the communities that felt really negative
Mhm.
and were lacking hope. But with this Invisible Strength podcast, I have gained a new perspective and more inspiration to live well from seeing, as you said, all the different guests who have overcome life threatening and severe challenges. They're going on and accomplishing amazing things.
Mhm.
The sense of community, inspiration, and hope has been an unexpected, wonderful aspect of producing this podcast.
Absolutely. Like I said, it's really just such an honor because we've just had such courageous and such strong people talking about, you know, just I don't think people outside of this can understand how miraculous it is for us to just like walk outside of our front doors each day, and just the simple task like that. But they've done that and so much more, just from those who have been able to raise families, from those who've been able to be leaders in their community, from those who've accomplished things in athletics or business or whatever the case may be. It's just astounding considering what they have to deal with every day through their autoimmune condition.
Let's get into some of our most powerful takeaways from guests that we've had on this show, starting with facing the hard stuff, because as we've seen, we've both had firsthand experiences facing death, life
Right.
threatening. You can feel so alone. I remember walking away from my first support group in such despair and had zero hope because, granted, this was 15 years ago and it was one experience, but it
Fair?
was it was enough for me to be like, I'm fine. I'm doing this on my own. Like, I got
Right.
this.
Take that much to make a bad impression, right? Like it is the one time is enough.
Right. But when I tried to do it on my own, I ended up spiraling and
Yeah.
in worse condition, both mentally and physically. This sense of community and seeing that we're not alone in this journey has made all the difference.
Hmm.
It's ironic. There are millions of people fighting autoimmune conditions, but when you are in the thick of it,
Right.
it can feel so dark and
Yes.
isolating.
Yes, yes. And because it's something that is a complete shock to the system, our listeners have heard us say this, and you've heard me say this, Karen, dozens of times, but I've yet to see anyone within this community talk about how prior to being diagnosed, they really didn't have a lot of ambition or didn't have a lot going on, that they were pretty sedentary prior to it. Affects so many folks who are driven and go-getters and didn't necessarily understand the value of rest as well as we needed to learn. So, just seeing people who have been, doing such a volume of work get slowed down, it's a real shock to the system. And of course, there's going to be grief involved with that. Of course, there's going to be a profound sense of loss because maybe even our identities are wrapped around how much we were able to produce and whatever titles and status we had in our communities.
That sense of loss and feeling like you are robbed or your life has been
Come on,
taken from you has been a common theme throughout our episodes.
for sure.
How have you dealt with that in the grief of leaving your old self behind?
I think the first step in it, Karen, is really allowing yourself to feel that, because if you're saying these things out loud, even to someone you care, who cares about you, and you're saying, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know if anything I'm doing even means anything now. Like I can never be who I was. If they care about you, their desire is going to be to comfort you and maybe say things like, don't say that. That's not true. No, you still have value, all of these things. But I think what's even and it comes from a sweet and well-intentioned place, but I think even more so, what's critical is allowing yourself to grieve. Allow yourself to say, I used to be able to do this, and now it's harder to do it, or I'm not able to do it yet. Right? Always add that yet because we don't know what breakthroughs are coming. And so I think being honest with yourself about what you feel, but saying, I'm just going to visit. I'm not building a house in grief. I'm just vacationing. I'm just renting. I'm not living here. Because I think when we live there, that's when we get stuck. That's when we're never able to be present. Grief is a thief in that way, that it wants to hold you in the past. And regrets can even try to create false futures and tell you what you've lost that you never even experienced. But there's something profound about visiting those things, feeling those things, and yet still wondering and asking yourself, what can I do today? Because if you're not doing that, that's how we get stuck forever.
Say more about what can I do today? Because there are times when you really can't do much. One of our guests, Roxanne Lerner, had talked about how, in the thick of her autoimmune disease, she just laid on a yoga mat for
Yeah.
a half hour. It's like
Yeah.
that's all that she could do then.
Right.
What are some of the small ways that you've gotten through the really dark times?
Well, yeah, no, when you talked about Roxanne laying on the yoga mat, I thought about those times where I was laying on the floor of my apartment in Charlotte and my dog, rest in peace to Bear. Bear would just lay and put his big old paw on my shoulder like he was like, you're gonna be okay. Almost to borrow words from our friend Chuck, you got this, kid, like this real sense of companionship. And it's really what has helped me in those dark spaces is recalibrating my goals. And so for those times when lupus beat me up so badly, I had to relearn how to walk. My new goal became, how can I walk from here to the bathroom unassisted? And then once I was able to get over that hurdle, okay, how can I walk from this end of my floor of the apartment to the other end of the floor in the apartment? How can I walk from here to downstairs? How can I walk from here to the corner store? Like just allowing yourself to continue to build the goal. Because if I just get focused on that goal, the goal that I had in 2017, even into 2018, which was I want to go back to work. I was a school teacher. I need to go back to the classroom. Every day that I'm not in the classroom feels like a failure. But that big goal is made up of countless little goals that help you get to that realized goal. So how do I get there? Well, first I need to sit up in bed. And then I need to be able to put on my socks by myself. And then I need to be able to stand up and make it to the bathroom and brush my teeth without sitting down. There's all these little goals that get us back to the point of you finally walking out that door, walking down those blocks, taking the subway and walking to work and teaching for a full day. But you can't get to that big goal without those little goals. And if you only have that big goal, you're only giving yourself opportunities to fail. We have to give ourselves opportunity to succeed because that becomes our habit. That becomes contagious and a part of our rhythms. And now we're able to say, you know what? I've been winning. Every day I've been winning. I can accomplish this rather than having the mindset of every day I've been failing. And that's part of why, Karen, even in the military, one of the first things you have to do in every day is make up your bed. Because if you've made up your bed, you've started your day by accomplishing something. So every day you can say, I've accomplished at least one thing. And then that becomes a part of your habits.
I appreciate how you had a goal in mind. It can be easy to be like, well, I'm never going to get there and go negative. But even focusing on the small steps, I appreciate the fact that you're asking, how can I? Because it opens up space for you to be like, okay, this may look different, but I just need to figure out how to do it differently. One of the key lessons that I've taken away from our guests is learning how to pivot.
Mm.
What you used to be going for and how you used to go after it needs to look a lot different when you're navigating these health challenges.
Absolutely. And you saw the resilience in the guests, just thinking about all the ways they made those pivots. I thought this was going to be the thing. I'm thinking particularly of the athletes, but not exclusively the athletes. Like, this was my prize. This is what I was going to be. And then life happened and they found a whole new way of redefining themselves that was just as brilliant and just as successful. It's really inspirational.
And sometimes even more brilliant and more successful.
Right, 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 for sure.
So I encourage people when they're in that space of grief, it can be hard to see the hope and imagine a different future for yourself. But asking those questions of how can I or what can I, it allows you to be more creative with your future.
Totally. Totally it. Absolutely.
One of the things that came up is with our former guest, Victoria Gibbs. She
Mhm.
said just making peace with yourself in your situation.
Yeah.
While whatever is happening today may be really hard and tough, everything runs its course. It's
Yeah.
not going to be there forever. And there's going to be another side to all of it.
For sure. And that's the sort of wisdom that's gained through experience, right? Like, you can't understand that at the beginning, but once you've gone through it, the importance of making peace with yourself, you're not your enemy in this. Like, it's so easy to feel, I know I felt this, and perhaps you felt this too, Karen, like a sense of your body betraying you, like your body turned on you, especially like literally autoimmune, like your body's fighting itself. And there's a sense of betrayal there. But being able to find that peace and to be kind to yourself, it's essential, because no matter who you are or what you're doing, if you can't have that sense of peace or love for yourself, it's going to be really hard to treat anyone else well. You're going to be at war with everyone you encounter if you don't first take care of centering yourself in peace.
It can feel like you're fighting against it. But by making peace with yourself, at least for me, then I could focus on healing. Back to your questions, what can I do to help myself and my situation? One of the biggest factors in that was letting go of where I thought I needed to be or where I should be.
Yeah.
Stop comparing myself to others and what they're accomplishing.
Come on.
Needed to focus on myself, my situation. It can manifest in many different ways, and
Yeah.
each of us is in our own unique situation.
That's right.
So I appreciate the fact that it's an individual journey, even though we have tons of support around us.
For
But
sure.
no journey is the same, and making peace with that, and it gave me the grace to deal with whatever I had to deal with
Mhm.
on my own terms and in my own time and not worrying about anything else.
Yeah, that's really it. Having that grace for yourself. I love that you bring that up, because just understanding and slowing down just enough to say, like, we'll get there. Wherever there is, we'll get there.
Chris, you have brought up in past episodes consistency. And I love your perspective on consistency because it doesn't mean 100% all of the time.
No.
How do you view consistency?
Yeah, it hit me years ago, Karen, that just by virtue of showing up, you've put yourself in the top 50%, right? If I say to you, hey, I've got this event, I'd love for you to be there. Less than 50% of the people I talk to about whatever that thing is are going to be there. And so just by virtue of showing up, you've put yourself in position. And so understanding that there are days, like for example, we're talking on a Wednesday. Wednesday's the days I love to, go and lift weights, right? But I know that there are some Wednesdays where I cannot lift as much as previous days. I'm not going week after week and setting a personal record, but I have to make sure I at least go to the gym. If I'm lifting the smallest amount of weights and saying I'm just going to work on my form, make sure that, my elbow is where it's supposed to be and I'm squatting properly, whatever the case is, then we are doing much more than me just saying can't do it at all today. And so just by virtue of showing up consistently, that moves you forward so much more than saying, I'm not going to do it at all. There's times as a writer, I'm so intimidated by the blank page, and it's easy to say, I'm not going to write today. I have no ideas. But the very virtue of trying to make a couple of sentences form, even if I'm not writing 1,000 words, just by showing up and honoring that time, it's moved me forward more than if I said, I'm just going to skip it today because I've got nothing. And so, in the same way, we have to show up for ourselves every day. You're not going to be able to be a rock star every day by virtue of the conditions that we have. That's impossible. And to accept and expect that of ourselves is not being kind to ourselves, but we can expect that every day we're going to give it the best we got, whatever that is. And sometimes for us, that means allowing ourselves to rest. Like I had to almost hold myself down on Saturday, like I was in an invisible straitjacket. I said, I need to rest. I had played basketball with my sons earlier. There was no shade around. I said, this is dangerous and crazy. Why did I do this? Let me go lay myself down in a cool room and hydrate and eat as much as I can to make sure my body was in homeostasis. So allowing yourself to rest is showing up. Allowing yourself to say, I'm just going to read, or I'm just going to listen to music, or I'm going to watch TV, whatever the case is showing up for yourself. But just be consistent about showing up for yourself.
Yeah, even if it is just resting, because that is contributing to healing and being able to live well. Because if you didn't bow out, you probably would have been in a world of hurt
Yeah.
later on if you didn't give yourself that space to rest.
Truly, truly, truly.
I have a much better relationship with rest
That's
now,
real. That's real. Don't speak in terms.
but it took me a long time. It's a
Yeah.
tug of war. We've had so many guests who are chasing after their dreams
Yes.
despite these conditions.
Yes.
We tend to look at rest as a failure, but it's the exact opposite. It is giving us the fuel we need to be able to live well and enjoy our family and friends and all the activities that we want to be doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's the fuel we need to live our lives. And I think sometimes we view rest as like, you get a big case of FOMO, thinking you're missing out on something because you're resting. But no, you're missing out on something if you don't rest, because you won't be able to live as long as you need to live if you don't rest. Like keeping it in as sober terms as possible. So allowing yourself to say, you know what, I'm just gonna chill for a little bit. There's no harm in that at all.
You're well grounded. You probably haven't run into a time where you've had FOMO, have you, with this disease?
Yes, I think especially in my 20s, oh my goodness. Because,
Yeah.
you know, I think seeing, like you'd see like your friends from college in like Ibiza or someplace, or like I'm going to Brazil and I'm just like, I'm home, just laying down with the shades closed, because if I go outside, I might go into a flare. You know what I mean? It's the kind of thinking that I had back then. I definitely, it took me a long time, like well into my 50s, to not feel like I had a whole decade robbed from me. Like I definitely in my 20s felt like I was supposed to, because of who I had been in my teenage years and in my early 20s, like such a social person, and I was still social, but it looked very different, right? And it just I didn't feel like I was able to live full throttle in the way I wanted to live. And so I had to really redefine the terms for myself, and it took a long time.
I certainly relate to that, and I think a lot of people do, especially because when you're diagnosed and dealing with this in your 20s, the social life, all
Yes.
the activities, a
Right.
lot of times you're going to school or getting married. There's just so much happening in
Yeah.
life during that period where it's easy to feel left out, like you're missing out.
Totally.
I remember being in the hospital bed, getting invited on a ski trip,
Come
and
on.
it was like, "Shoot, I can't go."
No,
And there was so much sadness and grief in
of
missing
course.
out on that,
Of course.
and you get through it,
Yes.
but words of encouragement or advice for people who are feeling like they're just left out of life because of this.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's real. It's so real. It's so real. I think one, communication helps, right? So something that I've seen happen a lot in our community and I've experienced is, I'm the kind of person who, if it's a Monday and someone says, "Hey, Saturday we want to go on a boat for like a fishing trip, or we're gonna go to the beach, or whatever the case, something fun," and I'll say, "Oh, can't wait. My calendar's clear. I'll be there," right? But it's Monday. I don't know what this week really has. I have my plans on my calendar, but I don't really know how this week is going to go entirely. So by the time Friday night gets here, I am beat. I am so beat. And I've been looking forward to this trip, this excursion, this party, whatever this thing is. And I'm listening to my body and my body's saying, "We have no juice. Like we are tapped out." And now I have to make the dreaded phone call or send the dreaded text message and just like try not to feel lame about it. Try not to feel like a flake. Cause that's a part that used to hit me a lot too, is like I felt like I wasn't keeping my word. And my word is really important to me. And so it would take me a long time to even want to like work up the courage to say something to my friend, but what I've been blessed by is to have friends who are very understanding and it took them some time too in a while to really learn like, oh, like I'm not just changing my mind. It's like I really don't have it. Like I know you saw me on Wednesday and we were cool, but like today I don't have it. And so I think just allowing yourself to understand that each day on this journey is very unique and that there are ways that we can try to like preserve spoons. So I know this is happening on Saturday, so I'm going to try to be cool until then so I have enough energy for it. But life can still happen. There may be a weather system that comes through and just gives you a migraine. Like anything can happen. Just allow yourself to know that like all of our plans, with or without this condition, are written in pencil. Like there's that's a part of being a human being. And if you're allowing yourself to have that kind of flexibility, then you can be kind to yourself and not feel like you've let everyone down and let yourself down. So it's really about just letting go of control, letting go of this sense of it. Life has to go exactly the way I planned it because we know all too well that that is not true. That life does take detours, but it doesn't mean it's an ending. It just means it's a whole nother part of the journey that you couldn't even have conceived, you know?
Adaptability and flexibility is critical
Yeah.
to managing these, and it's something I've had to work on throughout my journey. When you give yourself that space to be like, okay, pencil it in and communicating about whatever you're going through at that time. For example, it was just a couple of weeks ago when I had to bail on you because I had wicked joint pain in my back and
Come
was
on.
stuck on the couch.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. No one wants to be laid up like that, but
Right.
I knew it would pass eventually. I needed to take care of myself and doing what you can in those moments and having an open mind to be flexible
Mhm.
gives you the space to heal and recover so you can get back on your feet and go out and do the things that you enjoy.
Yeah, yeah. And to your point, Karen, imagine if you had tried to push through. That episode wouldn't have been any good. You've been in too much pain. You may have injured yourself further, so we wouldn't even be able to record today. Like there's just a compound interest with our choices.
And ironically, so I've looked back through some of the old episodes and I was like, oh, I look off that day. Oh, yeah, I was super nauseous. Like,
Come on.
no one else could really
Yeah,
tell, but was it really worth it? No.
right, 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 right. That's real. That's real. But at the time, we kind of we drive ourselves, we push ourselves. But to your point, just allowing yourself to bounce back is key.
But I do think sometimes, especially if you're stubborn like me, it takes those experience to
Yes,
figure out, that wasn't the smartest thing to do. I can handle it differently next time and I'll feel much better for it.
for sure, for sure. So, and that's the thing. Like we learn through our experiences, right? That I think that's part of all of our stories is just understanding. I remember last time. I'm not gonna do it that way again. That's a good lesson, you know.
With all of our guests, I think we learn through our own experiences, but then through our guest stories,
Yeah.
I've learned to better take care of myself and use some of the tools that you don't learn about in the doctor's office.
Right, right.
One of the biggest things for me and a lot of our guests on the show who are chasing dreams is that we are not valued based on our productivity.
Come on, say it again, please, because that's a hard lesson to learn.
It's something you've supported me with a lot throughout this journey. And because it's hard when you are wrapped up in your job or whatever role you are playing in life to see yourself differently from that. So, how have you cultivated it when you've really been down for the count? You're trying to sit up in bed, walk to the end
Yeah,
of the hallway.
I think it's remembering that the people who love you don't love you because of your accomplishments, right? Like the people who really care about you cared about you before you had any kind of success, you know? And when you remember that love is not tethered to that, then you also remember that love isn't tethered to productivity either, right? That like love can inspire productivity. Love can make me say, like, you know what, because I love, my spouse or my children, I want to provide, but the love that I have for them isn't based on how much they produce or how much success they have. And if I remember that at its core, that kind of reminds me that I still have value even if I'm not out there like killing it. And, once again, that's a place I try to visit, right? Because I want to be productive because I feel like, especially as a creative person, I'd be really miserable if I wasn't able to create anything. But at the same time, I understand the creation as a fruit, that it isn't the tree, that the tree is the love. And that, like, because love is nurturing and love provides shade and strength and all that stuff, then I can have the fruit of it, which is, me being able to produce something that people enjoy or maybe even will outlive us.
Well, and when you turn it around and put it on someone else, I don't love my husband because he's doing great in his career, right?
Right, right.
So it just seems so silly to think
Yes,
about it for myself that way.
yes, right,
That's one thing that has been really eye-opening for me throughout these podcast episodes is once you get out of your own head
right.
and realize that there are so many other people out there going through harder, just as hard, maybe even less hard things than
Come on,
you,
come on.
but regardless of the challenges, they're still challenges.
Yes.
And you're not the only one fighting these battles.
No, no, not at all. Not at all. You're not in this by yourself, you know?
One of my favorite quotes from an episode with, it was Ava Dennis. She
Yeah.
had said, if you have good people around you who love and care about you, they're not going to see you for your disease.
Yes. So real.
So we're not defined by our diagnosis. There's so much more to us than these illnesses. And that's
Right.
something that really has brought light to me throughout these episodes is there's just so much more.
Mhm. Because the disease has a way of becoming a primary lens, right? It has a way of whatever your condition is becomes the way through which you see the world. But it's not the only way people see you. And I'm not just talking about people who knew you pre-diagnosis. There are people who know you who you may not have even shared your diagnosis with. And they have a complete understanding of you that has nothing to do with your illness or your condition. And if we understand that, then we know that the trials we're going through, the conditions that we fight and we're suffering under, do not have a monopoly on our identity. And if we can remember that, then we can sort of take back some of the space and some of the ground that we've ceded to the diagnosis, and understand that we have full lives in spite of what the disease is doing. That it isn't going to like crush us in a way that prevents us from having lives. Like our lives still have value. We still have purpose in the world, and even through this sort of challenge.
Chris, what is one of the biggest learnings or thing you have worked on throughout this podcast?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's this podcast season has really emphasized for me the importance of understanding our stories as part of a tapestry, that even if we don't get cures in our lifetimes, we still have so many lessons we can glean from. That maybe there's an experience you've shared or a guest has shared that has allowed me to say, like, oh, I didn't think about it this way. And I'm able to implement that in my own life and give myself more space to be a person and not just a patient. And I think that just that sense of, in the same way, like I like that show, The Last of Us, and the mushrooms, the cordyceps, they talk to each other. Like we got to build a same sort of network where we're sharing information and have almost like a hive mind, or like I learned that from episode 12. Yeah, I can use that to help me with this problem too. So I think this understanding that this show is really community in practice, you know?
Yeah, because you can have all the tools. Yeah, I know I'm supposed to meditate, maybe
Right,
do some yoga or light stretching. I need to
right.
eat clean. Those are all the tools that can definitely help. Changing
No
my
doubt.
diet has been very helpful in managing my symptoms.
For sure.
But there's this space between those lifestyle tools to help you manage it and just mentally coping with
Yeah.
the magnitude of the different challenges that come
Right.
along with these conditions.
Right, right, right. Yeah, just understanding that you have a lot of tools in the toolkit, you know?
Speaking of tools and connecting with more people, Chris, you want to tell our community what's coming up with our group
Absolutely.
coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're excited to be able to offer both group coaching and individual coaching. I've been doing coaching in some sort of form or fashion for the last 15 years, and now going more into an official capacity with it. It's really been exciting to me to say, how can I take what I've learned about coaching and apply it to our community here in the autoimmune community? And so just offering group sessions where we're able to bounce off of one another's strategies and solutions, but also those individual sessions where I'm honored to be able to go on a journey with you as you're trying to figure out, what are my goals? What are my plans? What's the destinations that I have in mind for myself? So please definitely check out our website to gain more information about how to sign up, because signups are going to be going up this month here. So once you're able to sign up, I can't wait to start working with you and just really helping you on your journey.
I'm really excited about this because we've been able to connect and support a lot of people through this podcast, but the group and individual coaching can really further support people in their journey. I'm excited to offer this resource for people.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Take a look for that. And don't forget to tag someone who has exemplified invisible strength and tag us for a chance to win an invisible strength hat. Chris, thank you so much for doing 50 episodes with me and helping me grow throughout this process.
No, it's an honor, Karen. Thank you for, just being the visionary for all of this. And I'm really excited to see what the next 50 episodes and 50 after that and so on and so forth will have for us.
Exciting times. Thank you for joining us today. Until next time, take care. Peace.
Peace.